We're going for all the cozy vibes in this video because I do not have the equipment to pretend it is anything other than a miserable day. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. That is so crazy to say. If you don't know me, my name is Amy. I'm 20 years old from the UK, book enthusiast, and I run an Instagram page called Books for Amie. And for ages I have wanted to do this. So here I am, me in my bedroom with my phone camera, trying my best. I didn't want to do a massive introduction. I feel like if you like me, and if you like my content, and if you like books, please subscribe, please stick around, and we'll get to know each other gradually throughout this journey, I guess. I feel like it would be insincere for me to do my first video and not do like solid book content, because that's why we're here, isn't it? You don't really want to know how many countries I've been to and like how many pets I have. 0, by the way. Pets. So yeah, I am here today to show you my favourite books of 2020. Like most people, I have had a lot of time to read this year. I think I'm currently on 77 books. I think that's the most I've ever read in my whole life, let alone in a year. And I have narrowed it down to, I think, 12 favourites. Hang on. 12 favourites. Here we go. My top 12 books of 2020. I am going to kick it off with my favourite fantasy books, because if you know me, you'll know that I am a fantasy enthusiast above anything else. And I feel like it would be wrong for me to start this video with anything other than A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Now, it took me ages to read this. It was on my shelf for months. I didn't pick it up until November. I am so glad that I did. This is literally one of the top highlights of the year for me. If you're here and you're part of the book community, I don't really need to say much else about this book, but I am a typical fangirl. I will be devouring Sarah J. Maas's work in 2021 and yeah, I just loved it. I don't really need to say anything else, do I? I should probably mention every single book that I'm going to mention in this video I gave a 5-star rating. So yeah, book 1, favourite, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I also probably should have mentioned before, I'm going to save my favourite of the year until last. Wow, I bet the suspense is killing you. Anyway, book 2 is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Now, this was her debut novel. It came out this year. It is a fantasy, young adult retelling of King Arthur. It was just, blew me away, to be honest. The magic elements of it, the world building of it was very well written. The inclusivity, is that a word? I think so, I hope so. Anyway, it's very inclusive, loved it. Just good job, Tracy Deonn. Okay, the next book is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. V.E. Schwab is very, very, very hyped on Bookstagram. Not so sure about BookTube, but anyway. I saw a few people reading this, giving it 5-star ratings. I thought, I want to get on this bandwagon, and I adored it. The world building in this is so, so clever. It's a trilogy, and basically it's set in a world where there's 4 Londons. So like Grey London is sort of similar to the London that is in our world. Then there's Red London, which is magic London. Then there's White London that has magic, but it's few and far between. And then there's Black London, which has completely been destroyed by magic. And then there's the Antari, who Kel is, the main character, who are the only people left who can travel between these Londons. I'm not sure I'm selling it, but it's exceptional. I loved it. V. Schwab is a lyrical genius. Like, she literally has languages written in here, made up languages. So clever. I adored it. I think my final read of 2020 is going to be A Conjuring of Light, so then I can finish on a bang. Final book of a trilogy. Quite satisfying. Anyway, book 3, A Darker Shade of Magic. Next up won't come as any surprises to anyone who has followed me on Bookstagram for a while. and that is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I mean, I think this is an honourable mention for the whole trilogy. I think it's the only series that I've actually completed this year. These books are honestly exquisite, so good. It's just so magical, so beautiful, so well written. I'm obsessed with Stephanie Garber's style of writing. She's got a new book coming out next year. Very excited. These books will be like firm favourites, I think. Like books that you'll read to your kids, books that you'll reread just for the fun of it. Loved them and totally immersive. Just pure escapism for me, these books were, and I just absolutely loved it. Yeah, that was my 4th book of 2020 favourites. So another thing that I found an absolute love for in 2020 was books written in verse. If you do follow me on Instagram, you'll know how much I love books written in verse. The first one I read was Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. Loved it, vowed to read the rest of her stuff. So I did. So a firm favourite this year has been The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This was just as beautiful as Clap When You Land, but I did prefer it. I just think the story was so beautiful. I love the characters, I love the way the story was told. If you've never read a book in verse before, it's basically a book written in poetry. Yeah, I've read some incredible books in verse this year, and I'm always looking for recommendations, so if you know of any, please let me know. They always leave me like astonished at the end. Like so thought-provoking, so powerful, so emotional, and I loved this so much. And then another book in verse that just absolutely blew me away this year. If anyone is looking for a book recommendation to educate them about diversity, about pronouns, just about so many different things, this book is just incredible, and it was YA as well, so it's just so accessible for everybody, and the illustrations in it, just, it's incredible. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is, of course, The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. Now, this is a book that I would buy as a present for so many people. It's just, it is a work of art. I'm gonna try and find a really beautiful illustration. Obviously, when you're looking for them, you can never find them. And there's just stuff like that all the way through. It's one of the quickest books I could have easily read this in like an hour, but I read it over a week. I really wanted it to sit with me, and I really wanted to savour it. And it's the kind of book that like, I didn't want it to end, but I want to reread it instantly. It will always have a place on my bookshelf. It was just so beautiful. And I believe Dean Atta has a new book coming out in 2021. So that is going straight in my basket. So this was, I think, in my top 5 of the year. Another genre that I just didn't really read before this year is romance. If you don't know me, you won't know this, but pretty much before this year, all I read was thrillers. But I've had loads of time, and I've really gotten into romance novels. I read The Flat Share in the summer, and all those gooey feelings. I feel like I have to give that an honourable mention. I think it just was pipped to the post for this video, but it needed to be mentioned. I just loved it. So the first book I want to mention is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I'd seen so many recommendations of this one, and I only recently picked it up in December. I read it this month. I loved it. I had no idea it was set in Nottingham, which is where I went to uni. So I loved that anyway, like just a little moment for me. But I 100% thought it was going to be American. I don't know why. I just loved it. The characters were so well written. They were just like real people who you could relate to, you could connect to, you felt real emotions for, you were rooting for. I loved it. It was such a heartwarming read. And I have, take a hint, Danny Brown on my shelf, which I am very excited to read at the start of the new year. So yes, this had to have a mention in my favourites. It really took me by surprise, and I really enjoyed it. Now, another one that I have to mention is Forget Me Not by Melissa Morgan. Now, I won this beautiful signed copy in a giveaway, and because of that I have sort of made friends with Melissa on Instagram. She's just one of the most humble, beautiful people I've ever spoken to. She's just incredible. And not only that, she has written one of the most beautiful books I have ever seen, read. Oh, I loved it so much. Again, it's a romance that I'll be honest, if I didn't win this, I probably wouldn't have reached for it, but boy, I'm so glad that I did. Her second book is now out, which I will definitely be getting to as soon as possible. It follows Charles and Lizzie, the main characters, and Lizzie she wishes things could be different, and they find themselves, they've gone back in time and she's 19 again, and she can live her whole life differently if she chooses to, and it's just about the consequences of that. So many beautiful messages in this book. I can't sing its praises enough. This is definitely in my top 5 of the year. Melissa, I can't praise you enough, honestly. It is stunning. Now, the next few are probably some of the most hyped books I've seen. So the first one, definitely, like, you cannot scroll past 5 posts on Instagram without seeing this book, I swear. So I actually read another book by this author first in the summer. Absolutely loved it. It was incredible. And then I was apprehensive to pick up this one because I was like, damn, what if I don't love it as much? And I actually didn't read this until, I don't think, like September, October. Anyway, it is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I kind of wish I could mention Daisy Jones and the Six as well, because I struggled to pick a favourite between the two. However, I think this one did just pip it ever so slightly. If you haven't heard of this book, where have you been? The only thing I knew was it's about this Hollywood movie star who's had 7 husbands. I feel like that's all you really need to know going into it. It's just a contemporary fiction, but it's written so well. Taylor Jenkins Reid is incredible. Again, another author. Can't wait to read more of her stuff. It was phenomenal. Just, yeah, amazing. Another one, it's quite old, but the hype has resurfaced for obvious reasons because a sequel has now been released, which I am reading in January, and I could not be more excited. If you haven't worked it out yet, it is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This book took me so much by surprise. I was not expecting to love it the way I loved it. I did it in a big group buddy read because this font is tiny, and I was like, I'm not sure it's gonna be my cup of tea really. I just loved it. The detail was phenomenal. It's not for everybody, the detail, like the 80s trivia, but I thought it was awesome. And the whole concept is just like so cool. Fun fact, I actually watched the film on Christmas Eve. I really enjoyed it. However, if the film wasn't called Ready Player One, I feel like I wouldn't have actually known it was based on this. The only thing that was the same was the character names. But I understand in a book with this much detail, the film would be like 10 hours long. However, I don't know who I was talking to about it, but I'm campaigning for a series, like a TV, Netflix original series. Who do I talk to make that happen? This next book had a massive hype around it when it came out. I think it came out in 2018, 2019. It took me a while to get it anyway. It's The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I am obsessed with The Handmaid's Tale TV show. I think it's so well done. I actually watched the show before I read the book. Very, very rare that I do that, but I love Elizabeth Moss as Offred in that. And I loved it. I've rewatched it several times now. And then at the start of the pandemic, I actually bought my nan The Handmaid's Tale for her birthday last year. So I was like, Nan, can I borrow The Handmaid's Tale? I wouldn't mind giving it a read. Read it, loved it. I do actually prefer the show though. Very rare I say that. But I did really enjoy it. And then to be gifted this, you can imagine I was so excited. This was so highly anticipated for me because it obviously follows Aunt Lydia. It was so cleverly written. I know that there's a lot of controversial opinions about this. Not everyone enjoyed it. But I swear this is definitely in my top 5 of the year. Like, when I read this, I was just absolutely blown away. Loved it so much, lent it straight to my nan straight away because she loved it as well. I'm going on now. The final book. This is my favourite book of the whole year, I think. It was quite a tricky one. Like, staring at my shelves, I was like, I don't know what my favourite book is. But every time someone asks me to recommend a fantasy, this is what I say. I read it in like May before any influences from Bookstagram, and I still feel this strongly about it. So I just think it has to be on the top shelf for this video. And it is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I was obsessed with this when I read it. I still am obsessed with this, but like now, I cannot wait until there's a release date for book 3 so I can have an excuse to reread book 1 and book 2. It blew me away. This totally has got me back into fantasy, and now I'm like the biggest fantasy freak ever. You do have to give it a little bit longer to sort of like delve into the world, but once you do, the world building is exquisite. The characters are so badass. Just talking about it has made me want to reread it like now, instantly. So good. Obsessed. One of my favourite authors ever, even though she's only written 2 books, but I was that obsessed with both of them. And I just, yeah, this just had to be in the top spot for the year. So, with that being said, thank you so much for watching my first ever YouTube video. If you've got this far, tell me down below what your favourite book of 2020 has been. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. I'd love it if you subscribed to my channel. I'm not sure when I'll be posting, but definitely it will be regularly to start with, at least while I've got the time. But thank you for watching. I hope you all had an amazing Christmas, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. I hope you enjoyed the holidays and have a very happy new year, even though I may post more content before then. I don't know. Bye everyone. I think you all know what 5 stars are. Don't know why I'm doing a virtual high five, but there we go. Book 3, A Conjuring. Book 3, what is it called? God, where are we?